Good morning, everyone.
Or good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world.
Here it's good morning. And there we are. Now I see us. I see that we are live now on the page. Just want to make sure. I always want to make sure we are live before I start. So good morning, everyone who is joining us through Facebook Live, or make sure to join in via Zoom to get your questions, in, so that way it becomes a conversation, and we could go more in depth, so make sure to join in. We are live. JB will be posting the Zoom link, so that way if you need it, it's there. Yes, there it is. Okay, so welcome everyone. Just a little bit about us. I am Rebecca and my husband,
Adkins.
and together we form Dual Dragons. We are holistic wellness consultants, also known as the Muscle Whispers. And there's our information if you ever need to get a hold of us. We've been doing this together for 2 years. Before that, we've had experience in the massage therapy realm, and we've been evolving from that because 2 years ago, my sister was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and with our other modalities and techniques, we were able to formulate and discover a new way of treating our clients, not just based on muscles, but also in energetic blockages, any emotional trauma. And with our gifts together, we formed this very strong relationship where we were able to get results for our clients right away. So it's been a very interesting journey for us discovering that, especially with my sister. She was diagnosed stage 3 ovarian cancer, and we were able to help her minimize the aggressive chemo within 4 months, and has since then been cancer free. So a lot of benefits whenever you have a community, a group, doctors, holistic care, you name it. If you have a community and a group behind you to help you get better, the possibilities are endless, is what I want to say. And so with that, the reason why Healers Roundtable was formed, with COVID coming around, it just had me meditating and thinking, how are we going to service our community, our clients? How are we going to do this now when we're not able to, come in contact sometimes? And so it really had me thinking and meditating with my spiritual guides, and they're the ones that started this whole group. They had me, I saw the vision of the Knights of the Round Table coming together and how they would formulate a plan to protect the kingdom. And so that's what I saw. I saw all of us healers coming together and formulating a plan, a networking way to be able to help each other spread the word of other possibilities, and a community where everyone can just, really benefit and resonate from, and so that's what the Healers Roundtable is all about. They had me formulate a course back in October, which was chakra aligning. And that one, afterwards, I understood it was a way for them to help us ground. And then for the month of November, they had me formulate the how to connect with your spiritual guides through meditation, which was helping us to connect to our higher source. So first they had us ground, then they had us connect with our higher source. And now for this month of December, we're working within, our spiritual connection with ourselves, our spiritual connection with our spouse, partners, children, our spiritual connections then from outside from our home, which is, extended family, friends, community. And so I think the way they really formulated, and I've been blessed by their guidance, the way they really formulated this was just extraordinary. I find it, I'm in awe with how it's been developing and how it's come out. And I hope everyone is really benefiting from this, because I know I have personally. So for today, let me just, there we go, click. So we have spiritual connections with your partner and children physically. And so again, day 1 through 3, we did spiritual connections with yourself, emotionally, mentally, and physically. And day 4, 5, and today, day 6, we've done the same 3 topics: emotionally, mentally, physically, but now with your partner and children. And some of the notes that I wrote down when they were guiding me was understanding change as an opportunity. Sometimes we're, even with COVID, I see a lot of people kind of like, oh, I don't like this. They're trying to push, push, push. COVID's here and it's going to be here, and other things are going to come about. And it's learning to take that change in a different perspective, in a different way of seeing it as an opportunity to grow, to develop. You know, it's it's an experience. It's a learning experience, just like throughout our lifetimes, all the changes we went through childhood, when we had to go through puberty. Nobody likes it, but we went through it and we were able to embrace the change, and then later on make that peace with, like, okay, this is my body from now on, this is who I am, being able to find our identity, accepting those changes and embracing them is what I want everyone to view it as. And then how that intimacy, you have intimacy with yourself. How do you take care of yourself? And then you have intimacy with your spouse or your partners. Daily intimacy is very important because it's not just about the physical body bonding, it's also about that spiritual connection. You've seen it in paintings where you see the chakras and how they align when the bodies are together, and how it just merges together, and all this energy connecting. And it's come to the point where my husband and I could say it all the time. If I'm feeling something, he can feel it. If he's feeling something, I can feel it. And just being able to have that very strong bond with each other, we know that we're going to be there for each other. So practicing intimacy daily. It's not a chore. It's not like, oh, an expectation. I hear that a lot from women, like, oh, he always expects me. Or even the man sometimes, like, she doesn't do this or that. And it's not about, people treat it as a chore. No, it's taking that time to really talk about that healing experience on how to become intimate where it doesn't feel that way. It shouldn't feel that way. It shouldn't feel like a job. It shouldn't feel like a chore. It should be really experienced like, I want to embrace you today. I want to hug you today. I want to do this. And it shouldn't have to be such a task. So I just wanted to throw that in a little bit about that physical part, because I feel that that's one important aspect too when it comes to spiritual connections. And also, how do you take care of your body? What movements do you do? How do you get yourself going? How do you boost up your energy? And how do you help your partner boost up? Because sometimes one is ready to take off and the other one is still trying to warm up. So how do you balance that out where you don't feel one's being felt that they're being left behind or pushed away, or, oh, she's too slow, he's too slow. So how do you balance that out? And so with that, just want to switch over. I want to introduce our guest speaker, Siris Raquel Rivas. And I can't see, I'm waiting for the screen. Oh, how do you say the last one? I can't see your last name.
It's Verdejo.
Verde. There you go, Verdejo. When you click on your box, then I can see your full name. And so she is the owner of Empowering Light Language LLC, worldwide facilitator, coach, creator of the Living and Dying Energetic Body Process. There is her website, her email, and her number. So if anything she says to you today resonates, or say you're like, I really want to get a hold of her and talk some more with Siris, there's her information. And again, I'm going to repeat it over and over. Once these lives are over, we put them in our units tab, and we also put all their information there for you to be able to always have a way to be able to get a hold of them or write down their information for if it comes up later on that, oh, I really need to reach this person. It's always going to be there for everyone. So with that, I just want to go ahead. I'm going to stop share and hand the mic over to Cities. There we go.
All right. Hi. Hi, everyone. Hi, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Like the introduction, yes, I'm Siris Raquel Rivas-Verdejo, and I'm very, very honored to be here today, to be asked to speak as part of the series. A big shout out to all of the earlier speakers and all the wonderful things that they were inviting us to, and that they demonstrated in their talks that we got to talk about. Just a lovely platform. And I love that we all have these overlapping energies and overlapping themes that just makes this series all the more potent. And so if you haven't checked out the other speakers, I definitely recommend you doing that. And hopefully I will be adding a piece or two or three that adds to the conversation and contributes to you, to your relationships, and to your families in whatever way I can. A little bit about me. I am a speech language pathologist and learning behavioral specialist by trade, by training. I've been doing that for about 15 or more years now. And with my 2 master's degrees in speech language pathology and learning disabilities, a lot of people assume that that's completely different and separate than a lot of the therapeutic energy work that I do, a lot of the coaching that I do, and yet it all blends together when you're really willing to be and function as an infinite being. And when you're really willing to be what's true for you all the time, there isn't all of this separation and compartmentalization. And I used to do that. I used to have my speech and language and the learning remediation stuff over here with the kids and families and teachers I would work with. And then I had the energy work over here when I'm a Reiki master. I do Tantra and Theta healing and access consciousness and so many modalities. And I'd keep them separate. And then the people over here started asking for the stuff over here. And it took me a bit because I was like, wait a minute, but what am I going to do if I can't keep them all separate? Like, out of control. Is anyone else a control freak, or is it just me? And so I was like, oh, let me actually listen to what people are asking for. And it's been amazing. And I'm so glad I just mush them all together. And now they all get to contribute to each other. And that's part of what I'd like to invite all of us to today when we're talking about being connected and intimate with ourselves, with our partners, and with our children. It's about all of those things contributing to each other and not having the separation between these different relationships either. And so when we do that in one area of our life, we can actually more easily do it in the other ones. And so I wonder for each of you, where you're already lowering your barriers, where are you already having things contribute dynamically to each other? And if you've been able to do that in one area of your life, even if it seems like a small part, then like if you get the energy of that, it'll be like, oh, let me just spread it around to everything else. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. But the other aspects that have come up from all the different modalities and in my trainings and working with children and families so much is I was very intimately in the homes with the families, not just seeing them online or working with them in the schools, even though I do that as well. And so when I got to actually visit the kids and families in the homes, working as an early intervention provider, and then also doing parent workshops and things like that, I got to really know and acknowledge my gifts of where I'm able to perceive when people are choosing something that's creating their future and the future that they'd really like, and where they're choosing something that's destroying their future and really taking them off track. And when I would see this dynamically, I would start with, let's say, the child and the parents, and how the parents would interact with their child was inviting the child to either be more of what was true for them or not. And how the parents were acting with the child was also either signaling and lighting up, like illuminating all these possible futures for that child with them. And maybe those were futures that the parent would think would create more for the child and would be good and would be nurturing and expansive, or like lead to stuff that you see on the news, or those problematic things. You're like, how did we even get here? And they still get to choose. The children, they're infinite beings just like us. They have choice. But one of the things that I would encourage my parents to do, and that I will encourage each of you to do today, is to see which of the pathways and which are the breadcrumbs you'd like to leave for the people in your life, including yourself. And if that's actually going to be leading to any of the infinite futures that is actually going to work for you, that you'd like to see in the world, or going to completely take your family, your relationship, and your life off track. And so one of the things that we'll talk about today, if you're willing, is what your yes is with your body and what your no is with your body. And I do it a little bit different way than some other people. So even if you've done this before, I invite you to kind of play around and see what this looks like for you, what shows up. But when we're talking about our spiritual connection with our partners and our children and ourselves, one of the things that I do with every aspect of my business, be it the speech and language therapy, the relationship and life coaching, the energetic body work, I really invite people to co-create with their bodies. Most people are impelling points of views and agendas at their bodies, including their partner's bodies and their children's bodies, and not really talking with their bodies and their own bodies, so that all of the bodies, how many times can I say bodies? So that all of the bodies can have a conversation, can have a sense of oneness, a sense of peace and calm, of joy, of pleasure, of nurturing. But when we're having our points of views and we're like doing these computations and calculations, when we've gone into conclusion about this is what we do with children's bodies, this is what I have to do with my partner's body, this is what my partner gets to do with my body, and my kids get to do with my body, and you see, notice the energies. It's like immediately like, oh, it's so heavy, which is an indication that maybe it's not true for you or going to work for you. So I invite everyone that works with me, in whatever way they work with me, to really connect with their body even more, to make sure that they're including themselves and their body in their choices and in the creation of their life. So let's have a bit of a play with that, and then I'm going to talk a little bit more now as soon as we have a clear yes or no. Before I get into this exercise, is there any questions? Be it in the chat. I'm not seeing the Facebook live feed. It won't let me see it for whatever reason, so on my phone. So if you guys can let me know if there's any questions, that would be awesome.
So far, no questions yet. No.
Okay, cool. And if you all catch this later and have questions, feel free to reach out. But with this, I invite you to, if you'd like, a lot of people find it easier to stand up actually and do this. I'm going to do it sitting just so it's easier to see me here, but feel free to stand up, and whatever way, if you're sitting or standing, make sure your knees are soft, that no joint of your body is locked, be it your elbows, your shoulders, your knees, really soft. And notice anywhere that any part of your body is touching something. Maybe it's touching carpet or wood on the floor, socks, fabric of your clothing, jewelry, your glasses. Speaking of, I feel like I need to clean mine out again. I'm always touching mine, so then they get smeared. And as you're noticing all of these contact points, really invite yourself and look at how every cell of your body can be a little bit more awake now. Really noticing how these materials, how the air, if you have air conditioning or not, how your breath might be informing your cells. And invite your cells by asking, they're listening. So go ahead and ask all the cells of your body to wake up even more, to become activated. And if you're not really sure how to do this, feel free to pull energy from my body to your body, being like, hey, can I have whatever she's doing with her body and her cells my way? Because I don't want you to do it the way I'm doing it. I'd like for each of us to have what's true for us with our bodies in our own way. So don't worry, I got plenty of energy. Go for it. Pull away. And just notice what shifts with your body just by asking the cells to wake up a little bit more. This small thing of acknowledgement isn't such a small thing. All of us are looking for that acknowledgement, to be seen, to be heard. For many of us, our cells seem to be something that is unseen, even though we know we can see them under a microscope. But we don't talk to them. We focus maybe on the organs or the digits, the toes, the things we put makeup on or lotion on, but not every cell. And so let's include them as well. And still having our joints, our knees, our elbows nice and soft, noticing if your jaw is tight in any way, anywhere that you might be clenching, contracted, just go ahead and soften all of that out of your body, out your feet and into the earth. Let it pour all out. And then this is what I do every day when I wake up, even before I get out of bed. I go ahead and I say, hi, body. I say hi to a couple other things too. Let's start with hi, body. And then I ask my body, so body, what is our yes today? And I see if there's a movement, a sound, a picture, a smell, a taste that shows up, a knowing. And then body, what's our no today? And anything that doesn't allow this to be clear for you your way, with infinite ease, let's go ahead and let all of that go. Let that pour out of our bodies into the earth. And let's ask one more time. Body, what's our yes today? And body, what's our no today? And just notice if it's the same as before, if it's changed, maybe it's gotten a little bit louder or clearer. And let me know if you don't have a clear yes or no, because there's a couple other ways to do that. Awesome. And just notice how your body feels to actually be included in your life, to actually be acknowledged, like, hey, you're listening? We get to play together? We get to create together? Cool. I do that same exact exercise with kids. I do that with my partners. Because I'm like, okay, I'll do this with my body first. And then I'm like, all right, what's my yes with each of the kids? And it'll be different with each kid. What's my yes with my partner? And if you have more than one partner, with each of the partners, it'll be different. And then go, what's the no with each of the kids? What's the no with each of the partners? I do that with play partners, with kink partners, with romantic partners, with business partners. It's what's the yes? And get really clear and be willing to be aware of when it shifts. Because for me, sometimes day to day, the yes and no is different. That's why I actually start my day with that clarity of like, okay, this is what I'd like. I'd like more of my yes. So let me make sure I know what the energy of that yes is. It doesn't have to be a movement. It doesn't have to be a sound. It can be. For each of us, it's going to be different. Sometimes it's just, you just know, oh, that's a yes. It's like you just shined a light on it, like, oh, right? And sometimes it's no, and it's just so clear. And you can't even vocalize and verbalize what makes it a no. It's just, you just know it's a no, it's a no. And then when you go ahead and you allow your kids and your partners and yourself to have your yes and have your no, you've been having conversations about what that is for you, it makes such a difference. It's this beautiful platform for intimacy, for connection, for building trust and rapport. Now, what I see a lot of the times is people either don't give themselves permission to know what their yes is or to honor it, or they don't let the other people in their lives, be it their kids or their partners, have a yes, have a voice, have a say. And so I love facilitating and mediating conversations between partners and the parents and kids, or educators and their students, around, well, what's actually true for you? What's true for them? That's another way of saying, what's the yes here? And then how can you both have the yes? Kind of like another way of saying the win-win situation, except I don't really like win-win because it feels like it's a contest or a race or like competition, and then with that there has to be someone that loses, and that's just my personal preference. So use whatever terminology you'd like. This is just what works for me. What's true for me? My yes. And so now that you have your yes, actually looking at, all right, what could I do? What can I be with my children and my partner that will allow all of us to have more and more of our yes every day? So I start with that question and see what pops into my head, what pictures, what sounds, what ideas pop in my head. And I continually consider that and include that as a part of my day. Versus like, oh, that's the answer and it's done. And so then I don't have to keep asking questions and I don't have to keep considering other possibilities. Like there might be somebody that you meet at the grocery store that all of a sudden gives you this idea. And you're like, oh, that matches the energy of the question I asked this morning. How cool is that? And then your kids are like, can we go there? And your partner's like, babe, that would be really, really cool. Hey. All these different things. So it's super nonlinear. But one thing I would like is that a lot of people, when they talk about spiritual connection and intimacy, they have a lot of different operational definitions. And so for me, when I think of intimacy and spiritual connection, I think of two things that maybe you haven't heard of yet that I wanted to add into the discussion, to the round table of ideas. One is a level of presence, like showing up and really showing up in your life, being really present with your body, with your awareness. So that's one. And then the other one is priority, that actually making intimacy and connection a priority, actually honoring your awareness and including your body's awareness a priority. A lot of people will say all this stuff, and then the next thing you know, you look at their schedule, you look at how they go about their day, their life, their week, and you're like, where is that? Like, how is that showing up in your life? So one of the things that I help a lot of my families and my couples, because I do coaching, and I also do like one person in the relationship that might then it trickles out and affects the relationship dynamic in my relationship coaching. And both with my family and child coaching and with my relationship coaching, I often use a lot of visual organizers and visual reference so that people can see how, like, when they see it, they're like, oh, this is what I've been choosing. Sometimes when it's all rattling around in their heads, or like they're in the go, go, go of picking up from soccer and going here and getting groceries and, the bedtime and that they're not really seeing how it plays out. They're like, oh, sure, yeah, I did that. I totally am prioritizing intimacy. I'm totally, yeah. But then when they really sit with it and look at it, they're like, oh, wait a minute. Am I? Oh. And so it's not me telling them either, because that doesn't really work. Who likes to be told? It's more empowering for them to like really sit with it and like spread it out and write it out or draw it out, whatever way they want to express it out. And then they get to have it and they're like, okay, I see it now. This is my life. Is this actually what's going to work for me? Is this what the future? I remember those infinite futures we talked about earlier. Is this what the way that I'd like my future to be? Because how I'm living now, what I'm choosing now creates my future. If I'm not really prioritizing it and choosing it now, I'm not going to have it in the future later. But a lot of people think, oh, it's for later. I have time. One of the things that I love about 2020, as much as it's been a huge time of change, and there's been a lot of upheaval and a lot of deaths and a lot of illness and stress, it's also really invited anybody that's willing to actually live the way they'd like now to step it up and choose it now. Because this whole, like, they were hearing it, oh, your life is now, but they were kind of putting it off. And I can't tell you how many people were messaging me in the spring and in the early summer, and they were like, oh my gosh, I wish I had talked to you about my business and already moved my business online way back in the end of 2019, because now I wouldn't be so impacted in my business. And now I'm worried about how I can help my kids with their schooling and still nurture my relationship and make money, but like I can't even go to work like the way I used to go to work. And it's this whole So really right now, what your life is looking like right now and what you're choosing right now is what's leading to your future. And you can plant the seeds for all these different futures you'd like now by making it a priority. So presence and priority. And so one of the things that I would invite all of you to, if you haven't done it anytime soon, is to actually do like a pie chart of your life. I do this maybe once a quarter. So I won't suggest anything to you that I don't either do or invite my clients to do, or both, and that I don't do like continuously, like that. I'm going to walk the walk with you. Okay. And one of the things that I've been seeing is, are you including touch and movement as a priority with your family and with your partner? I love that Rebecca mentioned touch and hugs and things like that. There's this concept of skin hunger that has been showing up. Maybe you've heard that term in the last, over the course of this year, where even people who weren't necessarily physically affectionate people, they were feeling this hunger for touch that maybe they've never experienced before. And those of us that were already cuddly and affectionate are like, like we're already struggling even more and finding ways to how can we have this touch and this nurturing, even given everything that's showing up right now and what other people may or may not be willing to choose. And so looking at that and seeing, well, what's the percentage of the time that you're having touch and having movement as a part of your life. And then also with your kids, how much of do they get to move? I work with a lot of kids remotely on the computer, and the kids are on the computer even more now than they ever have been. And there's all this concerns about that for their intimacy, their self-regulation, how they're connected with their bodies. Are they actually, there are kids that are getting more constipated and things like that because they're not getting to move around. So it's affecting their physiology. But that's also the case with the adults. We all need movement, all of our bodies in some way. And so for a lot of us that have these tools of energy work, have we acknowledged that energetic movement is movement?
Mhm.
That even when we're at a computer, when we're flowing energy to each other, when we're doing these therapeutic body work and therapeutic energy work, we are moving things and we're inviting our bodies and cells and these things, everything to move more. And so it can create more ease and provide that the higher frequency of movement that our bodies are asking for, while still allowing us to do what we have to do on the computer and interact with the world in a way that many of us are being asked to now more than before. So if you acknowledge that, I wonder what that would create. The other piece too is actually still going and doing movement and exercises in the homes. I work with a lot of people that they have many people in a household and not a lot of space. So I'm not going to be dismissive or flippant about space constrictions, or depending on where you are in the world, if you're in a place where you can't get outside or you don't have a yard, there are ways to have the movement in addition to this energetic movement that we're talking about that everybody in the family can be a part of. Now, one of the things that I invite you to do with that is to actually talk about the value of touch with the kids and the different kind of touch versus the special touch that the adults have.
Mhm.
A lot of parents, after let's say they have their yes, let's say they're willing to honor their yes, including, yes, I need time with my partner. Yes, I need time to myself. Let's say they're willing to actually choose it, which is a big if, but let's say they are. How do you actually present it to the kids in a way that they can hear, that they'll get it? And that's one of the things that I do a lot is with the parent and child coaching is I help parents talk to the kids about the things that they're not really sure about, the uncomfortable conversations, the ones that were like, I never had this conversation with my parents. I don't have a model for this. How do I do it? Including something as simple as touch. That one isn't super controversial, except, yep, most parents don't talk about it with their kids. And a lot of people don't talk about it with their partners as to like the kind of touch that they like, all the infinite ways it could be touched that have nothing to do with copulation. And then on top of that, yes, when they get the bodies together, that's another whole other part too. But intimacy doesn't have to be about copulation at all. That's why we can have intimacy and spiritual connection with our kids. And for them to know that difference starts with talking about, how do you like to be touched? Where do you like to be touched? Where do you like mom to touch you versus dad to touch you versus your sister to touch you? Are there times of the day that you prefer it or not? Like for me, and I give this example, and parents being willing to actually know this about themselves makes it easier for them to talk about it with their kids. I'll tell them, in the morning, I don't really like a lot of touching with talking. It's either talking or touching, but touching and talking together, it's like too much for me. And and they're like, oh yeah, me too. Oh wow, yeah. They didn't even realize. It's like, oh, that's what's going on in my world. Oh, okay. So like when you're getting ready in the morning and I'm asking you to brush your teeth or do these things, would it be helpful? And I talk about this even for kids as early as 2 years old. So when you're like, oh, these seems like really advanced conversations where they need a lot of vocabulary. No, they really don't. No, they really don't. You can talk about, hey, what's picking up on the child's yes and no as an infant is huge. And then continuing to let them know, okay, hey, what's your yes and no while you're changing their diaper, while you're doing this stuff, and see, oh, you see your face, I guess that's a no. And they're like, oh, that's what my no feels like. When you identify it with them and then you point it out and they're like, oh, that's no, got it. Oh, that's my no. Okay, thanks, mom. And then they'll tell you, Mom, that's a no. Like I have these little cute 2-year-olds and they're like, that's a no. That's a no for me. And I'm like, got it. Thanks for letting me know. And them being allowed to have their no. Being that I was born in Puerto Rico and my dad's Dominican, my mom's Puerto Rican, and we have very Latin culture. If any of you are Latin, you'll know that we greet each other by kissing on the cheek and we part ways by kissing on the cheek. And then I was working a lot with families that were Hispanohablantes, the Spanish speaking as well. And they would force their kids to greet me with kissing on the cheek, even if the kid didn't want to. And so this is a great example. Please don't do that, by the way. Please don't make your kids kiss somebody or touch somebody that they don't want to touch. Even if it's the cultural expectation of this stuff. Like be willing to be different for your kids. And one of the things I pointed out this has happened many times. Let's say this one parent that it happened to, I said, okay, so let's look at what message you're sending your child when you have them kiss a stranger or someone that they're not comfortable kissing because you said so. And they were like, okay. So I was like, does that mean that their body's theirs? Like, oh no, that means their body's not theirs. Does that mean they get to say no to an adult ever? No, they don't get to say no. Like, so if something's really uncomfortable or painful for them, can they say no? It starts there. It starts these little moments. And they're like, oh, wow. So it's like, so if another adult says, oh, you have to say you have to do what I say because I'm the superior, I'm the adult, guess what you've just set the precedent for? Right? It's this small thing, but it's not a small thing. Our bodies are ours, and teaching the kids what the yes and no is, and for them to check in with that about their bodies early on, and for you to have that with you and be able to speak about it and have those uncomfortable conversations is super huge. So when I look at the physical, it's really about the corporeal body, everything that has to do with our body. So even when I'm with a partner, let's say we've been together for years, I still ask every time, what would it create if I have sex with them right now? What would it create if I don't? Is this a yes or a no? Versus like, oh, well, we've been together. And of course, it has to be the case. And, it's the like you were mentioning earlier, Rebecca, the duty and the obligation. Well, that's not very light. So where's the yes here? When would it be a yes for me? In what context could I make this a yes? What would it take for it to be a yes for me? Do I have to get more sleep? Let's put that in. Let's prioritize that. Again, presence with your body and your awareness, and prioritizing, following your awareness and that. And so it's like, oh, I guess if I got more sleep, then I have to communicate that with my partner. Can I get a power nap and then we will totally rock this out? Or like, oh, I'm so busy and I'm pulled in all these different directions. The other part with the visual reference, I put in the calendars and in the visuals, the time for the kids, and the kids get to see it on their calendar. This is your special time. And it doesn't have to be a whole bunch of time. A lot of people think that intimacy has to be like a date that's 2-3 hours in a certain setting and all this, there's a whole bunch of like conditions and restrictions to it. And I tell you, these kids, including this kid right here, 15 minutes. You can create such a beautiful moment with a kid in 15 minutes because they don't have this time construct stuff that us adults do. So if you say, oh, you have these 15 minutes with me, what would you like to do? Or maybe you want to say 30 minutes if you have that, but a lot of my parents don't have 30 minutes. So you say 15 minutes, what would you like to do in that 15 minutes? We're going to block it out. You see it's on the calendar. You can put it with your stickers, or you can put your hearts or whatever that signals that it's your time. I'm going to put an alarm. I will be there. What are we doing? They're like, oh, really? It's just me? I don't have to share it with this person or this person or that. Oh my God. The gesture alone, huge.
Yeah.
But you see how you have to get out of all of these conditions and all these conclusions about it, what it has to look like as well. And then a lot of my parents, after the discussion of touch and of all these different topics that we go into, the kids will often ask for the type of activity that also includes the touch that they now know is what they like. Now, can you imagine how powerful that would be if you also did that with your partners? And 15 minutes. I hope, since y'all have this beautiful, like both being massage therapist background, that you like book appointments to give each other massages. What I find is that massage therapists are the most amazing givers and healers and the worst at receiving, because they're always taking care of everybody, thinking about everybody. How can I contribute to other people? And then they don't prioritize. You see, prioritize actually putting it in. So my mom, she was a massage therapist for a long time, and she would actually swap with another massage therapist, and they had a standing appointment no matter what every week at this time to give each other massages. Again, as you know, you can do a lot in 15-30 minutes for a massage too. And then that could be a time where you talk or don't talk, you have that connection. But it's like, are you really willing to actually make it so that it's an appointment that's just as important as if it was a client appointment?
Yeah.
Like, most of us would honor our clients and our kids' appointments more than ours. Oh, I'll just move it. It's fine. I'll just move it. It's okay. No, I got plans. Sorry, when else can you meet? Because this is a priority. My time with my partner is a priority. You don't even have to tell them who it's for. I have plans. I don't even explain it anymore. I just like, I have plans, I'm busy. But what about this other time? What about this time? I give them some other options. But a lot of us will just move it all around. And then next thing you know, it's been weeks, months, years. And then we're wondering how we're in relationships where we barely know the person anymore, where we haven't nurtured that time together, those things that brought us together to begin with. And it's really key now more than ever. Yeah. I'm going to pause.
No, you brought up a lot of good points, for me, mainly affirmations, okay, I'm glad that I'm doing it that way, with, like you said, this time with my daughter I decided to homeschool her because I just could not wrap my head around having her sit in front of a computer screen all day long. I've been seeing everyone else doing that, and I'm like, no, I can't do that to her. And so I decided to homeschool her myself. But I don't sit there with her for hours. We'll do a couple books, and then she gets an hour break. And during that hour break, you could hear her in her room pacing back and forth and singing
that movement.
That movement. And she has her thing. And if you interrupt her, if you happen to knock on the door, she's like, what? I'm busy. It's like, but
I love that because she's prioritizing it. She's like, this is important. I require this with my body.
Yes.
What, you're interrupting me for what reason right now?
I'm sorry, I just want to make sure you're not hungry. Are you hungry? Or you need something? And she goes, actually, I am hungry. It's like, but it's, just having that playful relationship with your child, and she's so open, like, why does grandma always tell me I have to eat? And I'm like, well, because that's our culture. But, they were raised that way. That doesn't mean you have to eat. Just let her know in a nice way. No, thank you. And, and so I'm glad that you brought that up, having them to kiss, and our Hispanic.
And that's a great example too about the food. That's like, oh, keep going. And then are you listening to your body? And then what does that create? Because then they have them eat too much at the earlier stages and when they're kids, and then they judge them later when they're overweight and have diabetes. And it's like, wait, but you created this whole mixed message and disconnect with my body, and then you're going to punish me for it. Okay.
Exactly. And I always tell her, just let me know when you're hungry. And so it's so funny because she goes, I keep trying to explain to her, I'll let you know when I'm hungry.
Love it.
And I go, and it's just, they were brought up that way. We just got to learn to kind of navigate. And so I kind of give her like, you just gotta learn to kind of navigate and kind of work your way around that situation, because not everyone is open or understanding,
Yeah.
So it's fun. It's
Mhm.
fun having, like what you saying, practicing the yes and no. Like,
Yeah.
what is it that she likes? What is it that she doesn't like? I always have a lot of, family members. Why don't you put her in sports? Why don't you do? Well, she doesn't like it. She's told me. I've tried. I'm like, I'll introduce it. Mom, I don't like this. I'm like, this is not my thing. I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
it's not your thing.
Mhm.
So I'm not that kind of parent that's rushed to million things. Like I have them, I see some parents that they have their kids in karate, soccer, and it's like
Like really overscheduled kids. And
overscheduled,
yeah.
and their kids are just like, and they all come home like this. Some of our
Mhm.
massage clients are like that, where they're all rushing home to get their massage because we're there already, and they're all just like tense, and it's
With
like,
adrenaline overload. Hmm.
and again, it's like bringing them back down and kind of having that conversation with them, like, how is this working for you? How is this working for your body? Your body is like coming to a wear and tear constantly, where every week you're seeing me to get relief from this lifestyle. How is this lifestyle working for your body? And it takes a while for a lot of them to realize, like, this is not working for me.
This
So,
isn't
okay,
sustainable. Yeah.
what can you do now to start making it work for you? You
Mhm.
know? And so we've had cases, JB and I, we've had cases where they start actually making changes and saying, oh my God, I'm so glad I stopped pushing myself to do this, or I'm so glad I stopped pushing myself to. I'm like, I feel so much better now. And it's again that little saying, keeping up with the Joneses. It's like, stop, prioritize for yourself, not for what everyone else is expecting you to do. Right. And that's
Absolutely.
what you're saying. Prioritize for yourself. Who cares about anybody else? It's like you.
Yourself and your family and whatever dynamic the family has. Like, I work with a lot of people that have very alternative, for lack of a better word, family dynamics, from either polyfidelity to blended families to, adoptive and foster care kids, just a lot of different things that like isn't necessarily what you see on TV, right? And they feel really isolated. They feel really alone. They're like, okay, well, there's some things that apply to us that we see other families choosing, and then there's other stuff that's just not going to work for us, but we're not sure what other possible options are out there. And so part of what my role has been is kind of to coordinate and connect them with other resources, other books, other trainings, other possibilities, so that they can actually get clear what's going to work for each individual in the family and the family as a whole.
Mhm, exactly. And I think that's the one takeaway from this is like, really asking that question, what is my yes? What is my no? What is my partner's yes? What is their no? And then finding that balance and through the communication, how to make it work. And then also the children and how to just kind of like weave this together in a way where it flows. And thankfully for me, I feel that JB and I, and when my daughter's here, my daughter's from my second marriage, when she's not here, when she's with her dad, that's my time to be able to be with my husband, and then that's when we do a lot of things together. And then when she's here, it's funny because sometimes I'll see JB try to kind of like come in, and I'm like, nope, not your time. You got to give everyone. I understand you want some attention right now. I'll give it to you when she's not around. Let's kind of like make this flow better where she doesn't feel like now she's being left out. Learning how to really read the body language tells you a lot, because I could see my daughter's body tension, tense up when she sees me paying attention too much to him. And so then that's my cue of saying, okay, I need to address this. It's not,
I actually think that there's something else there, if you wouldn't mind me like asking
yeah,
some questions a little bit.
sure.
Um, because part of what it is that there's an honoring of each person, but there's also a separation there.
Mhm.
We want to make sure that she isn't getting the message unintentionally that it has to be blocked out, that it has to be either one or the other that gets time, because you can be intimate and connected with everybody at the same time as infinite beings if we're functioning as infinite beings. And like we said earlier, it's not even just the schedule is in to block out the time in a rigid way, because it can be like 15 to 30-minute increments where you're shifting back and forth between all the different people. You know, a lot of my families, they have 3, 4 kids, 6 kids. And so you can't do a whole day for one kid, a whole day for you got to switch in between. And also if your body would really like to be intimate with your partner, waiting an entire week, given everything that happens in a day, let alone a week, can be depriving your body of something that it would be really beneficial, that might make it help it have more ease with everything that happens throughout the week. So even if it's these small doses, even when your daughter is in the same space and not with her dad, I recommend sprinkling those in more to nurture both of you. So it's not like there's like the famine or feast, you know? It's like, oh, no, it's like and so then you actually get to do it more consciously instead of like a gorging kind of a thing. And then your daughter gets to see that directly of how you can have all of it your way,
Mhm.
how you can actually have really intimate, lovely, nurturing interactions with a partner while having a kid. And I mentioned this in particular. There's one of my students who, she had that where the mom was always like, I don't even know what she's doing. She was telling me, the student was telling me about her mom. She's like, I know my mom's seeing someone, but I don't really get to know them or anything like that. And so I'm kind of worried about her. And so they kind of fill in the gaps with their own imagination. And it most of the time isn't accurate. But if they actually get to have the conversations with you and be present with it, like with the parents that never argue in front of the kids, then the kids think that relationships don't have any arguments. As soon as there's an argument, I gotta go because it's a bad relationship, because they've never seen their parents argue effectively. The same thing goes with intimacy too. It's like, well, what does that even look like? Like, how could I have those hugs, those nurturing, those kisses, those flirtation and the banter in front of them? And then obviously you're not going to be copulating in front of them, but they know that that's also part of the nurturing of the intimacy, and they get to be a part of that vibration. So when they have that for themselves, they can see, oh, I remember I remember these notes, this music a little bit. Okay, now, what kind of music do I want to have with this? Like, how do I want it my way?
Mhm. Yeah, no, definitely. We have those moments, where she sees it and she's like, "Ooh, guys, come on." But it's like, I'm talking more where I'm homeschooling, like it's that time where I'm with her and he
The
happens to
schooling time specifically.
yeah, it's her time and he happens to walk in and want a kiss and I'm like, it's and I tell him like that's kind of like you're invading her, this is her time. And and I have to explain it to him like it's not
It's
good.
a kiss, Rebecca. It's a kiss.
Yes, I
It's like
know, but
a
it goes,
second.
I know. I always tell him like, wait until the break time. She gets an hour break.
Yeah,
And
that's
that
cool too.
was
The funny thing is, like at the beginning of our relationship, we, didn't do anything in front of her when we started considering dating and taking our partnership as a work couple to an actual relationship. We kept it out of her for a couple good about a month, and she just said, "I want to see you guys. I want to see you kiss." Like, no, 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 not a peck, like the ones in the movies. So it was kind of interesting as well. You said checking every day.
That's a
Where
great conversation to have. It's like, okay, and then what's the difference between what you see in the movies and what relationships can really be like? Because that's how so many people create relationships based on fantasy. So hopefully you guys had a conversation with her about that. And it's never too late. Revisit it repeatedly, because there's so much romantic propaganda about like
just
everything that romance should be, a relationship should be.
just recently, she's really into music and rappers. And she was like, Mom, why do they talk about sex like this? Why are they saying this is sex? And I'm like, that's not really sex. They're just kind of like glorifying it in a way that, you know, to be honest with you, is not realistic. That's not real. And she goes, but why do they do that? And I'm like, I sometimes I feel like they're just really trying to convince people that it should be this way, but it's not.
Yeah.
And so
It's
I had just
perpetuating
made
the
a
lies.
yeah, I had just made a pancake for her. And I go, you see this pancake? And she goes, yeah. I'm all like, Mom made this pancake with all her love with you, for you, and it's beautiful. And now imagine this rapper showing up at our doorway and saying, hey, hey, what's up? What's her name, Luna? She goes, what's up? I'm going to, oh, cool pancake. I'm going to do this to your pancake. And then I go, and imagine he grabs a scoop of dirt from our yard and throws it on your pancake and say, hey, 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 what do you think now? You're gonna like it. You're gonna like it. Eat it, eat it. And then she's all like, ew. And I go, that's what he's trying to do with sex. He's trying to convince you, like, hey, just because I say it's good and it's like this, you're gonna like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then she was all like, well, that's not right. I'm like, I know. I go, that's why I don't like that music, because I know it's not right. It's not true. They're just saying things to say
So
that.
one thing that I would invite you to is that was a helpful analogy, but that's at an exact moment where you can be like, okay, so see how you are with your body right now, even your face, what it's saying. Is that a yes for you? Is that a no for you? It doesn't matter why they do it.
Yeah.
If it's not going to work for you, you don't have to try to understand anybody else.
Yeah.
So like, what is going to work for you? Is that going to work for you? Is that a yes for you? And she's like, no, it's not going to work for me. All right, cool. So what is going to work for you? And then just let it sit there and see what comes up to her mind, what comes up in her world as what's true and what is going to work for her. Because part of what's tempting and tricky with all of that is when you start going into other people's realities and why they're doing things, then all of a sudden you might have to like judge them or certain aspects of them, and then it gets really messy versus like inviting her to have what's going to work for her.
Exactly. With that, I'm going to go ahead and have JB take over. I'm going to be stepping out and reconnecting via Zoom. Thank you, everyone. I'm actually on my way to work right now, but I'm going to be reconnecting through my phone via Zoom for the private session, and I'll let my husband take over.
Thank you all for joining us now, and look forward to seeing you tomorrow. So remember to stay healthy and breathe intentionally.